Hey guys, it's Alex back with episode 28 of the HYPEWORKS podcast with me. I've said it already, Alex and Jake.
And Jake, yeah, hello.
Great to have on Michael Houck. I'm saying that correctly, right? Michael Houck.
Unlike most people, you nailed it.
Damn.
Hey. No, you nailed it. We're winning again,
surprising.
Alex.
Yeah, let's cut the chase. Like, it's really great to have you on, Michael. I came across you like on Twitter, like a lot of people, and you've got a very successful newsletter and a really high profile Twitter/X. But we always like to talk about the latest stuff in this pod, and you were just saying like you have like a little bit of an exclusive. Maybe you could drop in this pod.
We'll drop the
details.
We'll drop the scoop. So we've had the newsletter for about a year and a half now. It's at 80,000 subscribers, most of whom are startup founders. It's an advice column and resource column for founders. So tactical advice, things I learned, building a startup that raised from Andreessen Horowitz, and then now bootstrapping another one to 40K in MRR in 6 months. And send that out every week. But we haven't had a podcast till now, and we're actually in the process of putting a podcast out. We're meeting with some great people over the next few weeks. Should be out in about a month or two. The idea is basically to go super deep with actual people who've successfully raised capital and get them to be super candid about the things that don't get talked about, but only get talked about in DMs and group chats and things like that, about what actually works, what doesn't, for fundraising in particular. So that's the topic.
Yeah,
cool.
I'd been on your Twitter and I saw that you had posted about most people don't know what to look for, what VCs to look for. I think that's a great topic, and also a little segue into you and your background. So it'd be nice to share that with our audience.
Yeah, sure. So, excuse me. So I'm Michael Houck. I spent a few years in big tech. I was part of the early team at Uber Eats, a small part of helping grow that business. Ended up going onto their data science team, and then moved over to Airbnb, where I was a product manager, helped build Airbnb Plus. Got laid off during COVID, started my own startup after that called Launch House. We raised 2 rounds of capital, including a Series A from Andreessen Horowitz. That company got pretty big. We were doing about 3 million in revenue, ended up turning it into a venture fund because our product was a membership community of founders. And so we just thought, let's turn it into a venture fund. And that's what it currently is. I have since left, and now I am building my newsletter, building my personal brand, but also building Megaphone, which is an engagement network for social media. So you can subscribe and you get big creators in your niche to go engage with your content in a super organic way to expose it to their audiences. And at this point, we have a few hundred creators on the platform, and also a few hundred paying users doing that 40K MRR.
Wow. Fast.
We move fast over here, man.
Clearly. I've got a question. Obviously I'm starting a new pivot into launching a new business within the next couple of months. On the cards, there is a bit of potential. I'm bootstrapping at the moment, but there's a bit of potential for me to look for funding. What are the sort of steps that you would recommend startup businesses to go through, and how would they raise capital? Where would they look?
Yeah, I mean, it sort of depends on the starting point that you're at, right? Because you're either starting with a network of folks who are connected in the venture space, or you're not. And that's really the biggest kind of first cut that I would make. So if you're on one side of the fence and you have that network, then, just keep people in the loop with what you're doing. Make sure you track their second degree connections. Make sure you know who they can get you in touch with, where those nodes in the network that are super powerful are for you. And then just try to build relationships with those investors before you actually need to go out and ask them for money. I think especially with the kind of market we're in right now, unless you're in AI, capital is still a bit hard to come by, just like it was last year. If you're in AI, different story. But if you're not, then building relationships over a longer period of time is way more important now than it was, say, in 2020, 2021, or even the first part of 2022. But if you're on the other side of the fence, where you're like, I don't know a ton of people who know VCs, then it really becomes about identifying who those people are that you need to get in touch with. And a great way to do that is to look at the investors who are talking about your space on social media, in newsletters, on podcasts, and look at the companies they've invested in over the past, couple years, 1 year, 2 years, whatever the case may be. Get introductions to those founders, because the investors are going to be really hard to get intros to. So instead, focus on the founders, build authentic founder to founder type relationships with them, become friends with them, help them out, lead with some value that you can offer to their startup. And then at some point make the ask and say, hey, I'm looking to raise. I saw you were backed by X investor. It would be great to meet with them. So you have to do the upfront work. It definitely is harder if you don't have that network, but it's not impossible.
Okay. I mean, I've heard a lot of advice over the years, and, there's always that debate about going for like VC funding versus trying to find private funding. What would you say the core differentiators between what kind of funding a startup founder would choose is?
When you say private funding, you mean like private equity?
Yeah, private equity, or
family friends.
lend out from friends or people that have successful businesses already.
I mean, some people like to go after the brand names that big name VCs offer. We obviously got the benefit of that with Andreessen, but while that did open some doors for us, I think the most important thing founder can be doing is building their business, talking to their customers, learning how to grow. And so, especially if you're in the early stages, I would focus on just getting the money in the bank as quickly as possible and getting back to building. Unless you feel like there's an investor who can strategically add something, whether that's a partnership, whether that's they've worked in the space before and can help you not step on the landmines that are along the way. Unless there's some direct benefit to the company that you feel like you can't get otherwise, I would focus on whatever the lowest friction path is to get money in the bank and get back to building.
Again, awesome advice. I'm sure people are going to love this. So you've launched a new business, right, recently. How did that come about? And, it's growing quite quickly to monthly recurring revenues. I think would love to hear about how that started and where you're at now.
Yeah, so it started really simply. I was in Cape Town on vacation after I left Launch House, and I had this idea for an engagement network where folks could, grow with the help of other creators. I built my personal brand largely because I was friends with people who already had large personal brands, and they were interested in what we were doing at Launch House, and so they were engaging in the content that I was putting out. That exposed me to a whole bunch.
Michael, can you who's someone you look up to in terms of personal branding, like just on that topic?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Who are the kind of people you were looking up to?
Yeah, I mean, Sahil Bloom became a really good friend during the Launch House days.
I just sent Jake his profile, actually. I was like, this guy's killing it. Like, his content's amazing right now.
Especially on X, but he's expanded to YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. He's doing it all now. But yeah, he's the gold standard. He became a friend. And yeah, I mean, just getting exposure to new people through having engagements from folks with big audiences helps. And it was super organic because we were friends. But the problem is that not a lot of people actually have those relationships with big creators, right? Big creators have tons of people ask them for their time. It's tough to get in touch with them and build an organic relationship. And so I kind of, was focused on getting my newsletter to cash flow positive for a few months after leaving Launch House. But then over the summer, came back to this idea of the engagement network. And I texted a few friends about it. And I was like, hey, if I could have big creators comment on your posts about your startup or about your growing your personal brand or whatever, would you be interested in paying for that? And 100% of them said yes. And so instantly I knew that there was something to build there. I didn't know what it was. And so I just started playing around with a no-code tool. I had my VA slinging posts back and forth to creators across Telegram and WhatsApp. And I asked more people about it, and just the momentum kept growing in terms of people who wanted to pay to use the service. And so within a month, I'd hired an engineer, and we focused on actually going from a no-code app that I'd built into a full application. And I mean, I posted about it in my newsletter. I posted about it on social media a couple times, and word of mouth has sort of taken off since then. Today, there's two sides of the marketplace. There's the creator side and the user side. The creator side, you can only get into through referral. So either I have to know you or you have to be referred by somebody who I know. That way we keep a really tight loop on the quality of the creators, the quality of their audiences, no bots or anything like that. And then on the user side, it's just sort of grown word of mouth because I have a lot of founders in my network from the newsletter, from Launch House. And so we haven't really done any paid marketing yet. We did a small paid ad test, but we're currently not doing that. It's just growing through word of mouth right now.
And what's the business model like for this? Is this like a venture business model, or is this going to be like subscription based or a multiple channels?
I mean, we'll see how fast it needs to grow, or if competitors would enter the space and I need to raise money to crush
Yeah.
them. But
Yeah.
in the meantime, it's a subscription model, and then we also take a
Yeah.
cut of creator earnings on the other side. So people can pay either $89 a month, and we'll share their posts with creators as soon as they share them with us, or they can pay $49 a month, and we'll hold the post for an hour before we share them with the creators. Which doesn't make or break the success of the post, but it does have an impact on the impressions. And there's some other features we're building too. And then, everything they deposit, like ad spend to amplify their posts, we take 0% of that. We take a cut on the creator side after the fact.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool business models floating around right now. I was saying to Jake last week, so I've been using Beehive for my email newsletter. I'm not you. Do you use Substack or Beehive or what platform?
I use Beehive. I'm a
Yeah,
small
Beehive.
investor in Beehive, big fan of
All right,
Tyler
cool.
and the team. They
Yeah,
truly built a product that lets anyone create a newsletter super quick and
yeah.
out there.
So that ad network is crazy, yeah. Like literally, when I like signed up to Beehive, I didn't even know that existed, and then I've had four offers in the last week, and my newsletters have got like 1,000 subs. It's like small, but like I have 4 offers. It's crazy how quickly that's growing.
Yeah, they've done a really good job of making it feasible for you to make money with your newsletter right away.
Yeah,
At our stage, we have a bunch of relationships with sponsors, so we're doing a lot of stuff on our own. But anyone who's starting a newsletter, you can go on Beehive and make money through both ads and referrals, like their Beehive Boost product. You can do both of that within the first week or two of starting one. It's really insane.
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's a cool model. They have ads. They have obviously paid. You pay to subscribe to use it. Loads of different models. It's cool. There's a lot of experimentation right now, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
I have a question, and our audience don't know this, but you've recently moved coast to coast as well as changed your hair. But what was the reason to move from the west to the east?
Well, I had been in LA. I moved to LA in 2016 to help launch the markets for Uber Eats and join the team there. And then eventually moved up to San Francisco about a year later when my role in the team grew. And I was there at Airbnb. But in 2020, when I got laid off from Airbnb, I left SF and I went nomading around for a bit. That's how Launch House started. I booked a co-living house in Tulum and invited 19 other founders to come live with me for a month and build stuff. And then after that, I ended up right before we went to Launch House. I was in New York, and I ended up meeting my wife, and so we ended up settling down, at least for now, in New York. And so that's where we've been for the past few years.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. Wow. So quite a journey. When you were nomading around, where did you go? Did you move to other places as well? Was it like a traveling roadshow, or were you just permanently based in?
I had no plans. I just knew that I didn't want to be stuck in my tiny little SF apartment if I didn't have to be. And so Tulum seemed like a good place. I'd never been there. My friend had a wedding there. And so it felt like a good place to go check out. And then when we came back to the States after 2 months of doing Launch House down there, my two co-founders went to LA to manage the sort of like physical location that we booked in Beverly Hills. And I went back to New York to sort of focus on the business side of things. So that was how we split things up, and there was no plan beyond that.
Is the New York like ad scene? Is it still like preferable to be in New York in terms of like the Madison Avenue and this like obviously all the big advertisers are there, right? Is that still a thing? Like, or do you think you need to be there to kind of work with like advertising and?
I don't know. I mean, I'm in Brooklyn most of the time. Most of my life is with my family and friends, and then online. So I'm not on Madison Avenue too often.
Yeah, you're not exactly knocking on doors to get advertisers.
Yeah.
So how do you get advertisers on that topic? Like, is it mostly inbound, or do you guys do a lot of cold outreach, or?
Yeah, we at this point, a lot of our ad business is repeats. So folks who have tried an ad, but it's worked really well, and they've kind of continued to work with us or expand the partnership in some way. We also do things like founder dinners and events and stuff like that. But we do get a lot of inbound through the newsletter and through X and LinkedIn when I post on there. Also, we do cold outreach. We look at other newsletters and see who's sponsoring those in our niche and who might be a good fit. And we try to find the right contact at those companies to get in touch with. So it's a mix of all of them. I'd say the actual split and breakdown is at this point it's probably 50% repeat business, and then the others are 50-50, 25-25 basically between inbound and outbound.
What's the size of the team behind the newsletter?
So I write the newsletter. Sometimes I'm up till 3 a.m. the night before writing it, but I always get it done. Other than that, I have my chief of staff who handles all partnerships for me. Partnerships is not my thing. I don't love it. So he handles that. And then there's also some research tasks where he'll help out with that as well. And then I have my VA, my assistant, who helps out with basically anything and everything that I need her to. She's really incredible. But the majority of the team is focused on Megaphone. So we have 4 engineers right now working on Megaphone. Hired them all through Micro One. Shout out to those guys. And we also have a designer. And we also have, because I'm terrible at design. I'm like design is the one thing that I just am terrible at. And so we also have then some writers who work on our Megaphone Studios project, which is a subset of Megaphone where we actually will create the content for you, like a ghostwriting model, content creation model. So we have a couple of writers working on that as well.
Oh, that's fast. Speed. Honestly, Mike, your speed is impeccable.
It's the only advantage a startup has is how fast they can move. So that's
we were actually talking about this recently, myself and Jake. We used to work in like big marketing departments of like 200 people in the smartphone industry, and like it does feel like in the last year with AI, like you can flat pack a whole marketing department into like 5 or 6 people. It's changed so quickly. It's crazy.
I think if I was only running one of the 2 things, the newsletter or Megaphone, instead of both of them, I would probably do a lot of I do all of our marketing in-house. But we work with Matt McGarry's team for paid ads for the newsletter. We work with CapConvert for SEO. They're fantastic. Would definitely recommend checking them out. And a bunch of others too. So our partners help us with that side of things, but I'm sort of the one in the weeds directing them on decisions and stuff like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
It almost scares me. We mention AI at the moment at least 4 or 5, maybe 20 times a day. It genuinely scares me. I actually put a tweet out the other day that said, you should be more scared of AI than you are, brackets, if you're not already. So I think that AI is one of those things that's like, it's encroaching on everybody's patch. It's a matter of time before you are either managed by AI or one of the managers of AI. It seems to be the split to me.
I just want to make sure I'm on the right side of that line, right? I don't want to be managed by AI. And I think, being an entrepreneur, focused on building your own businesses, focused on being responsible for your own income is one of the best ways to sort of take that sense of agency, take that self-sovereignty and hold on to that. Rather than just working at some company where, I saw something that was like Wendy's no longer has people at some locations doing the drive-through. They just have a ChatGPT screen.
I saw that. It's crazy. Yeah.
I don't want to have anything to do with that.
It's a good point actually, because I think like all of us probably started our careers being a specialist, right? You have like one job, one vertical, could be a social media manager, could be a ad buyer, whatever. I do feel like we have to be generalists now. Like we have to like just do a number of different jobs, because I think the specialist thing is going to go away. Like think about so my start was PR. I was a PR guy, and like copywriting was like I spent like 4 hours a day doing copywriting, like press releases and like random documents. Like that's gone now. Like it's completely gone. That whole job is gone basically.
I mean, it can be if the company decides to outsource it to an AI, they can do that now, and the amount of jobs that's going to happen to is only going to increase.
Another one is media buyer, like a lot of setting up ads and stuff. All the technical people behind that, like that's all been like run by AI now, right? Like essentially setting up ads and copy, and it's crazy.
I think this is why.
Sorry. Go on, Michael.
Oh, I was just
You're the
saying, I
guest.
think this is why I was always a terrible employee. I was laid off from my engineering job right out of college after a year. I was laid off from Airbnb, although I was good at that job, but COVID was a crazy circumstance. But yeah, I think this is why I was always terrible, because I have been a generalist since day one. And I've prioritized learning the skills you need to be a good generalist.
Yeah.
I was about to mention that I'd actually written an email and sent it out it's a newsletter, but it's effectively run out of my email CRM. And I'd written it organically, and I got one response. Actually, I got a couple of replies, but one of the replies was like quite rude, and it basically said, "This is ChatGPT written, you're spamming me." And I was thinking, well, what are the chances? Actually, this is one of the emails where ChatGPT did not come into contact with this email, and actually I'd sent it out and thought to myself, well, I hope there's no mistakes in there, because I hadn't maybe done a good job at proofreading it, because I'd written it at 2 a.m. and scheduled it for 9 a.m. And I thought to myself, well, all that illustrates is that people maybe don't trust emails if they don't know the person, because they think potentially that it could be ChatGPT. And now we're getting to the stage where you might not be able to differentiate between what is AI and what is organic. I think 6 months ago we could do that. I could see something that was written and think, well, I think that ChatGPT did that because it used a few too many superlatives and the word elevate about 7 times. But now I think we're getting to the stage where it's very hard to differentiate between AI, and that sort of gap, the blurred line, will only increase. So I think that scares me.
Yeah, I would love to talk to somebody who works at like the NSA, like digital forensics department, and understand what they're prioritizing in terms of what proof of humanity versus something being AI is, right? Is this Sam Altman's master plan with WorldCoin to come in and have crypto be the sort of like the blockchain be the layer that determines if you're a human or an AI? I don't know. But yeah, I'd love to think about what the people in like actually mission critical situations already in like, the government and places like that are using to differentiate.
As well as academic institutions. Anything these days, because it's not just democratized the ability to be able to write at speed, but also democratized information, right? I mean, obviously it's probably censored. All information would be, to a degree, if it's from a large entity, for various reasons that we don't have to go into. But nevertheless, it's democratized the ability to learn things. So if I didn't know, as an example, if I didn't know basic SEO, I could learn basic SEO in about 20 minutes by having a conversation through ChatGPT. Whereas before, I might have to hire a mentor, I might have to go online, or even YouTube. Now, ChatGPT, speed.
Yeah, it's the ability to get over that line of, are you below the AI and taking direction from it, or are you above it giving direction? The ability to do that is actually easier than ever, but the urgency to do it is also higher than ever. Very interesting.
Yeah, I do feel that gun next to my head daily. Do you?
Yeah.
Do you feel that?
I try not to think about it too much. I think I just I'm pretty single-minded when I have a goal, and my goal right now is to just build Megaphone. So Megaphone's not an AI product. Maybe we'll launch some AI content creation tools later in the year. It's on our loose roadmap. But I'm trying not to think about it too much until I get there, because I think it's just, it doesn't benefit me right now to think about it too much.
I was having a chat with Jake. We were talking about scheduling content, because for my X account, I just shoot from the hip, right? If I see something interesting, I just post it. And Jake shared with me another account, a really popular design account. So it's like one of the top designers on X. And he's basically said, if I get, I'm probably giving it away here, but he said, if I get less than 100,000 views on a tweet, I delete it. That's what he said.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah. So what's your thoughts on that? Do you you schedule your content, or is it more organic? And
I've been pretty bad about scheduling content for the past 6 months because it's been pretty heads down. But when I am on top of it, I'll usually do a week's batch at a time. So I'll take either Sunday night or Monday morning and schedule everything out. But when I have posted threads, for example, in the past 6 months, it's been the morning of. I've just woke up early and written
Exactly,
something.
right? It feels a bit like saving sex for marriage. Like, why would you do that? You know, like, why don't just put it out there? You know?
I will say there's a lot of ways people try to like game the algorithm too. You know, like, oh, I'm deleting my posts so that the algorithm will think that I only tweet bangers. But like the algorithm knows you deleted the tweets too. It's run by the same platform that you
Yeah,
deleted the
exactly.
tweets on. So I don't believe in gaming the algorithm that much. It's just about putting together content that people will spend a lot of time reading or engage with.
I mean, the only time I've deleted posts is when I've been like I've said something I regretted, like some weird shit that I regretted. Like it has to be serious. It has to be really bad, and that's happened maybe once or twice ever.
Oh,
No.
okay. Well, that's a pretty good hit rate.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
deleted more than that.
What's your thoughts, Jake?
Wow, I don't know. I've been in these rabbit holes in my mind actually about social media. As you know, Alex, I'm quite a private person, but I do have a tendency to speak my mind in private. And I've been thinking to myself, do I want to share this with the world? And I should. Some of it I should. And how much should I censor? And in what format should I do this? And as you know, Alex, I've been sending you my demo videos of my new YouTube channel. And some of it might not make the cut. We'll put it that way. But nevertheless, it's I'd imagine it would get quite the reaction. So that's generally my thoughts.
It is a hot topic right now, right? Like because companies and whatnot are looking back in time. Like, hasn't there been cases where like CEOs have been fired off the back of old tweets and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I
Pretty
think
sure there has.
that happens way too much. I think that gets into the politics behind it, and sort of the craziness that we're in right now in the culture in general.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't happen unless it's really something.
It shouldn't
that's
happen, no.
Unless it's illegal.
It's just the fact that because it's online, it's there forever, right? Like Jake said, like if I say it in private offline, then it's gone. Like, it's done.
Yeah. But if you open the drafts folder of any one of the things they haven't posted, I'm sure you'd find some interesting stuff.
There's that account on X as well that shares the CEO emails, like Steve Jobs and Zuck, and all of the emails are just like they're cringeworthy. They're like borderline racist, like, but they're said in the heat of the moment, right? Like Steve Jobs did that Adobe one. Adobe were stealing all the Apple people, and Steve said, and Steve basically said, what's going on here? Like, are you going to stop stealing, or are we going to start stealing your people, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's incentives for both of them to collude in that scenario.
Yeah, and the Zach famous one about the fucking the ear, like that DM or the AOL IM, like that's same.
I don't think I saw that one.
I don't know that one either, mate.
Alex, what are you looking at, man?
Yeah, are you sure that
is out there? I would encourage just people just to say what they feel and
bear the consequences.
Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, like if you're writing a newsletter, you have to, or it depends on context, right? If you're writing a newsletter, you have to be fairly mindful of your audience. It's not like X where people are just, firing out stuff.
I guess you could wear a mask and say whatever you want.
Yeah, this is like the accounts that build a big following with an anonymous account, right? Like the car dealership guy was anonymous till he had a few 100,000 followers, and everyone's like, "Oh, who is this guy?" And then he unveiled himself at some conference or something, which was super cool. But yeah, I think building anonymously is an interesting approach right now. There's pros and cons, but I'm supportive of it if you're going to say something that people quote unquote don't want you to say, but there's nothing wrong with saying it.
Yeah.
Or say what everybody's thinking.
Yeah, I saw from your feed as well. Like, I'm just gonna bring it as prop here. I've got this 0 to 1 signed copy from Peter Thiel himself.
Nice.
He came to Hong Kong like many years ago, and I got a signed copy. You do these like profiles on X, which is pretty cool. Of like business, like startup founders and business people. Like who's the most interesting people you've kind of profiled and like.
I mean, yeah. So the threads where we sort of go over the bio of someone from the startup world who has an interesting story or background have done really well, especially recently. I think
Yeah.
two of the ones that I really enjoyed doing were Palmer Luckey and Travis Kalanick, two people who were sort of forced out of their companies for reasons that, I think people debate, but in general, they didn't do anything wrong. Travis apologized for the things that he, said to the driver in the video, and Palmer literally didn't do anything wrong. All he did was make a political donation personally. So, I thought it was cool to see the response to both of those, and people have sort of moved on from those and are very supportive of them now. So I thought it was cool, especially because a day or two after I posted the Palmer thread, which got, like 3.9 or 4 million impressions.
Yeah, that was crazy, that one.
A day after that, John Carmack, who obviously worked with Palmer at Oculus and has been at Meta until recently, since then, he posted that he had regrets about the way that went down. Who knows if he saw the thread or not and was thinking about it. But then it spurred this conversation between Palmer and the CTO of Facebook just on X.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
Who's to say if they saw the thread, but it was cool timing for sure.
Coincidence, yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Maybe, but who knows? No way to tell.
Alex, we're getting into the future predictions.
Future
wrapping
predictions.
up segments.
Yep.
So, Michael, we always ask at the end of every podcast to wrap up about your predictions for the future. It could be within your own line of work or just the world in general. So what do you feel is about to go down in the next year?
I mean, the big thing is the election in the States, in my world. Very interesting to see what's going to happen there. Obviously a very tumultuous time with strong opinions on both sides. I, for one, hope that we get back into a place of a little more cultural sanity and kind of meeting in the middle as much as we can. So I think that's the big thing that I'm trying to figure out and keep an eye on, and really the event that's going to define, I think, the next few years, at least here in the States.
Okay. I think we've gone through everything. We haven't hit any landmines except Alex with the ear comment that I won't
Google that.
I'm going to look it up straight after the show. Definitely. Yeah. 100%.
All right, Matt.
I don't want any bad searches to come up though.
Yeah, let's get you on in a year's time, Michael, and see how you're doing.
Yeah, let's do it. Would love to. Thanks for having me on, guys. This was a very cool chill combo. Enjoyed it. And if anyone's interested in checking out the newsletter, just go to join.houck.news. Houck is HOUCK. And if you're interested in getting more visibility on your social media content, check out megaphone.network and just drop your email on the landing page, and I'll personally reach out.
Good stuff. Also sub to HYPEWORKS, as usual. Right.
Of course.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks. Bye-bye.